Santos. I'm a student at UMass Dartmouth, and I will be talking to you about the Charlton store for my MIS 101 class. All the characteristics and skills Charlton learned from other greats or took from the others, like Rockefeller, Henry Ford, Andrew Carnegie, J.P. Morgan, and others. He used their success as a guide sheet to create his business. When one store failed, that didn't stop him from anything or the next best opportunity. Like, he did not allow his failures to stop him. He learned to adapt his views and decisions to manage the growth of his empire. And he was also a great risk taker like any other entrepreneur. Earl Perry Charlton was his full name. He was born at Chester, Connecticut on June 19th, 1863. His parents, his father, James D., was a blacksmith, and his mother, named Lydia Ladd. They didn't specifically say anything that she did, so I'm guessing she was like a housewife. They were descendants of the early New England pioneers and also related to James Otis. Charlton had two siblings. He had a sister named Mary, and he had a brother named John Howard. He dropped out of high school right before graduation. He wasn't really into becoming a blacksmith like his father. He was more set out to make his own living as a merchant. So in the 1880s, he migrated to Boston, becoming a clerk, later an ace drummer, also known as a traveling salesman, at Thomas C. Newell Company, a distributor of pots and pans and windows accessories. Eventually, Charlton met his future partner, Seymour Knox, at Thomas C. Newell, selling new merchandise to him, which is kind of funny. In 1889, Charlton took his first step into the fields of the 5-cent, 10-cent retailing with Knox. Also formed a partnership with Knox. At that time, Woolworth was perfecting the 5-cent, 10-cent concepts. He had come to learn both where to establish new stores and what merchandise to stock in the stores. His stores in the beginning were complete failures due to him pricing his items at a higher price, like at 25 cents. However, when he used his 5-cent, 10-cent, his stores were a success. Charlton's first store ended up opening in Fall River, Massachusetts. It opens on February 22nd, 1890. And while Knox provided financial assistance while overseeing his own stores in Buffalo, Charlton managed the store with complete control over his operation and merchandising. However, though, sadly, in 1896, Knox and Charlton's partnership ended due to speculation. However, they did remain lifelong friends. They both went their own ways, forming their own companies too. Eventually, Charlton started working with other businessmen, also Frank W. Woolworth. Charlton and his associates established the operating principles of chain operations, and they were the first to run them at a great distance, using only a secretary, typewriter, and postage stamps, and occasionally telegram, which is amazing to me because they had so little resources to get, their message across. And unlike now where we have unlimited resources, like we have the internet, we have Twitter, we have Facebook, we have blogging, Tumblr, we have we can put it on billboards, we have TV, we have so many resources to advertise our business. And for Charlton to have such a great success with his stores and only have these limited resources is amazing to me. With all of New England and Northeastern covered by mostly Knox, who had like the upper level New York, and Woolworth, who also had the northeastern part covered with their stores, Charlton looked north to Canada for the expansion of his 5 and 10 cent company. Also, what was amazing was when his stores, all of them were located in Vancouver, Montreal, Las Vegas, San Francisco, and they all became a huge success instantly after opening, which is crazy. 1905. In 1905, Charlton opened his first store in the West Coast. His initial West Coast store was located on Washington Street in Portland, Oregon. It was an instant success and encouraged him to push on to California. He opened his largest store on South Broadway in late 1985 in LA. Also, in 1899, I forgot to say this. In 1899, he sold off 9 of his stores to Frank Woolworth to gain capital for his project in Western expansion. That was when he was starting to look at Canada. So by 1911 and 1912, he had 53 stores, and Knox had 111. Only reason why Knox was ahead like that was because he purchased established stores already, while Charlton started from the ground up. Checking for location, that's when he noticed that Canada and the West had less competition, and he wanted to take his stores out there. So also in his Charlton's chain store chain, had the highest sales and volume, followed by his original store in Fall River. So his store chain in the West had the highest sales and volume. And now we're going to move on to Simon Capistine. That was Charlton's chief inspector. He was entrusted with the role of troubleshooting and occasionally a store opener. And this was around 1908 and 1912. Charlton trusted him with his stores out in the West when Charlton couldn't be there. At the time, Simon was too young to move to the West, so it took him a while, and once he was old enough, he moved out to the West and was the eyes for Charlton and helped him with whatever he needed. Charlton would write letters to Capistine, providing instructions on how to go about tasks, and offered personal advice as well. Like I said, Charlton trusted Capistine very much. And Capistine also supervised the openings of new stores throughout the region. His main job was basically to help managers, so he would go to the stores and see if the managers needed any help with anything, if things weren't going smoothly. He was very loyal to his subordinates and was as careful to further their well-being. And that was Simon Capistine, who worked for Charlton. And they would constantly send letters back and forth, of what has been going on with the business. And if there was an ordeal, Charlton would step by step instruct Capistine on how to solve it. Also, if Capistine was out of line, Charlton very kindly would explain to him, how to go about things and not to, take it overboard. Because he's helping the managers. Charlton didn't want Capistine to make the managers feel like they were unwanted and they were doing their job wrong. He always wanted his employees to feel important and wanted and be able to get assistance without worrying of they're gonna be in trouble. At home with the Charltons. Charlton married Ida Malstein in June 1889. 18 months later, Ruth, their first daughter and their eldest, was born on January 31st, 1891, followed by their son in 1893. And in 1895, their second daughter, Virginia, was born. Charlton's family life was mostly a happy one. I didn't see anything wrong with it. Charlton was a very giving man with his family, with his employees, with charities. He always liked to donate money and help. They did a lot of traveling and going to like Florida, renting out suites and exquisite hotels. His eldest daughter, though, Ruth Charlton Michelle Mason, graduated from Donna Hall Preparatory School in Wesley, Mass. Sorry. She later attended Chevy Chase College in Maryland, and she got married right after, and her husband purchased the farm, which is pretty interesting. 1920s In the 1920s, around there, Charlton built a summer home for Ruth, and they moved in there. Their son, Earl Perry Jr., he preferred to be called Perry. He attended several schools. He showed a little interest in academic courses. He never completed a degree either. He also became a cotton broker right after, and even worked for a banker in Fall River. Perry became interested in golf courses, though. He liked doing a lot of competitions in there, and he competed with a lot of famous golfers, I guess you can say. They were really good at what they did. He married Elizabeth Seymour of Medford, Massachusetts, but it didn't last. And they had 2 children, a daughter and a son, Earl Perry II. And then their last daughter, their last child, Virginia Charlton Lincoln. She graduated from Bennett School in Pine Manor College. 1919, she set out to go on a world tour. She had a very adventurous life, but when she returned via Hawaii and San Francisco, soon after returning, she married, her husband, Kenneth Lincoln, a builder, and settled down in Arlington, Massachusetts. They too were very generous people. They had 4 kids. 2 ended up dying in their later life at an early age, and she lived till she was 87 and died in October 1982. At the height of Charlton's success, he was only 48, and he was in the position where he could do whatever he pleased. He was wealthy and very privileged in society. He was a multimillionaire as director and vice president in the largest variety store chain of the world. Also, he possessed rarest capacities where he was the ability to carry many things at once and moves quickly from one activity to the other. By 1930, Charlton died by natural cause of death, and he ended up leaving behind a great legacy and a great story in Fall River, Massachusetts. And he donated a lot of money to charities and hospitals because, like I said, he was a very generous man. And that is a story of Charlton.